Summertime. Those words bring back quite a few childhood memories. A season full of playing outside in the sun and staying cool in the water, be it the pool or slip and slide. Drinking Capri Sun pouches with my friends, watching cartoons, and playing video games while also getting to stay up late? Those were the good old days. But there's one game that I most closely associate with these summertime vibes. A game that encapsulates all of that summer nostalgia into one package. That game was
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
This game brings back memories. Because what's a better way to celebrate the summer season than sitting inside all day and watching Mario enjoy the summer skies on a tropical island? But as time has gone on, Sunshine occupies an interesting place within the 3D Mario series. Some people hold nostalgic memories for this game as the product of a simpler time, while others feel like some of the things Sunshine does, or sometimes doesn't do, don't live up to the quality standards of the other 3D Mario games. But with the release of the fan mod, Super Mario Eclipse, back in 2024, I decided to spend some of my summer playing through this mod to try and relive some of that summer nostalgia, but also to see if Super Mario Sunshine represents an odd low point in the 3D Mario series, and to see what fans can do to breathe some new life into this GameCube classic, and maybe correct some of the original's mistakes. To get a better sense of what Mario Sunshine is as a game, it's good to get a sense of what Nintendo itself was like during this era. The GameCube era represents one of the more experimental times when it comes to Nintendo. I mean, the GameCube itself had handles so it could be carried around like a lunchbox. I mean, what other console can you think of that does that? But outside of the console's unique design, this philosophy carried over to the games as well. The GameCube's flagship launch title wasn't a Mario game, or even a platformer, but a Luigi game focused on puzzle and light horror elements instead. Luigi can't even jump, the one thing he's better than his brother at, and he doesn't even do it in his own game. But this experimentation didn't just stop at the launch titles. What if we had a Mario Kart, but with two people who can fight over the trophy? What if Metroid was a first-person shooter? What if Mario and the gang played soccer in steampunk-inspired arenas, while also having the expression of killers? Oh, and this.
Are you sweating? Don't whiff!
Following this era of experimentation, the Mario Sunshine team decided to spice up Mario for the 2000s. They gave him a gun. I mean, a water jetpack, which can be used to clean up goop that covers the stages and assist in his movement with the hover, rocket, and turbo nozzles respectively. Overall, I think Flood is a pretty great addition to the game. The hover nozzle, while not being the most flashy of the nozzles, serves the most important role in Mario's toolkit, as it provides extra horizontal jumping distance for seasoned players, while also acting as a safety net for those who are newer to platformers, who may have trouble lining up their jumps correctly. The turbo and rocket nozzles launch you horizontally and vertically respectively, while having a little less utility, still delivers on that spectacle and thrill, akin to Mario's previous power-ups. But outside of just extra movement options, Flood fundamentally changes how many of the missions are played. So instead of going from point A to point B to collect the shine, many of the missions in Sunshine have you use Flood to clean up areas, use Flood to propel you on a boat over lava, use Flood to spin slots to unlock a secret level, or use Flood to spray down your op, because we don't let identity theft slide in this plaza. Flood ends up adding some nice variety to the traditional 3D Mario formula. Speaking of Mario formula, another thing that Sunshine improves from 64 is the controls. This time, the team wasn't trying to invent 3D analog controls, so they were able to smooth out some of the oddities that came from 64's movement, which makes Mario feel quite smooth to control in this game, which combined with the newly introduced spin jump, which propels Mario high into the air and lets him descend with lower gravity than normal, makes Mario a dream to control vertically. It also goes without saying that the graphical jump from 64 to Sunshine was quite an impressive jump. His mustache actually has polygons now! representing one of the last times the graphical improvements between generations was actually jaw-dropping. All of these improvements aside, this game is one of the more divisive games in the series, and most of the issues leveled towards this game is because
this game was rushed.
Mario Sunshine had approximately a 1.5-year development cycle, one of the shortest in the series, and it shows. The game only has 7 main courses, a number dwarfed in comparison to the 15 in Mario 64, and because of the reduction in level count, the devs decided to make the requirements for beating the game quite restrictive. In Mario 64, you only needed to collect 70 stars to complete the game, with where you got those 70 stars not really mattering that much. This allowed the player to usually skip stars that they might be struggling to collect. But Sunshine does it differently. To get to the final level in Sunshine, you need to beat the 7th episode in all of the main courses, meaning you are expected to complete all 6 episodes of all of the game's playable stages. And unlike in Mario 64, which has multiple different stars that you can collect in most missions, most of the time you are locked into only being able to collect a star that pertains to the current mission. This change is the bane to both casuals and speedrunners alike, as casuals cannot afford to get stuck on 1 or 2 missions to beat the game, and speedrunners are stuck in such a rigid structure for their routing, which is such a stark contrast to the freedom given to players in 64. What makes this even worse is the mission variety is quite a step down from 64 as well. Outside of chasing Shadow Mario on every 7th mission, most stages have very similar mission structures, like collect 8 red coins, do a platforming challenge in a secret area, or taking Yoshi to a platforming challenge specifically built for him. While Mario 64 had red coin missions in most of the stages as well, Sunshine reuses these mission types in the same level multiple times. There are both red coin missions in the main area and in the secret courses. Stages reuse boss fights a couple of times as well. It makes progression sometimes feel pretty repetitive. What also adds to this feeling of repetition is unfortunately the stage variety. While it is a pretty novel idea to keep a Mario game in one distinct location, it means most of the stages are beachfronts or further inland on the island. While the devs tried to add variety by adding unique centerpieces like the docks in Rico Harbor, the amusement parks in Pina Park, and the Hotel of Serena Beach, these stages still do tend to blend in with each other, which is a shame, especially given the reduced level count. I can't even remember the name of all 7 stages, but I'm pretty sure most of them end in beach. But what I think leads to such negative impressions isn't how it's a comparative downgrade to 64, but due to a few infamous missions in Sunshine. Some of these missions are hated due to insane requirements it asks of the player, like asking the player to wait on top of these boats with Yoshi as it slowly moves all the way to the other side of the island. Just waiting. So you can access the secret course in which you navigate this lily pad using the incredibly sensitive boat controls to collect 8 red coins over poison water. Hope you don't get a game over because then you gotta do it all over again.
The horror.
Or they are hated due to some pure jank, like the Watermelon Festival, where the watermelon has the skin of a water balloon, or trying to keep balance on this sandbird who just loves to keep turning over. Or the pachinko machine of
Death
comes to most people's minds.
Mamma mia.
The fact that Sunshine was rushed is quite a shame, given the game had a lot of content left on the cutting room floor. Navigation between levels was originally planned to be done using a train system, where the player would need to collect tickets to go to different levels, leaning more into the concept of a cohesive, interconnected island compared to the final product's portals. Also in the game's files, there's text referring to some cut level names, such as Hotel Lacrima, Airtoe Rock, and Battleship Island. But unfortunately, these levels were victims of tight development deadlines. But what if the devs had more time to fix some of the issues that plagued the original game, and implement some of the ideas that were cut? Well, that's what the fan mod Super Mario Eclipse set out to do, and much, much more. On August 26, 2024, a group of modders released a project 5 years in the making, a version of Mario Sunshine that wasn't limited by tight deadlines. This mod comes with some much appreciated quality of life improvements, such as 16:9 widescreen support and buttery smooth 60 frames per second gameplay. Upon loading a new save file, the game starts out by teaching you the new moves Mario has access to in this mod. First, Mario has access to his long jump from 64. This move can be strung together to gain some serious speed. I found myself using this option as my primary way of traveling long distances quickly. This move fits nicely to round out Mario's kit, as most of his moves in Sunshine focus more on verticality. Each one of Flood's nozzles have also received an upgrade. The hover nozzle now lets you perform a double jump. The turbo nozzle now gives you a lot more control with your speed and turning radius for your dash, being controlled by how far you press down on the analog triggers. The rocket nozzle now lets you dive out of a rocket jump, letting you clear far distances with ease. Mario now has access to his ground pound jump from Super Mario 3D World, and now, when Mario doesn't have Flood with him, he can throw water balloons instead, for reasons we can get into later. Outside of just new moves, this mod makes other improvements such as adding the ability to skip cutscenes, a godsend for speedrunners as Sunshine starts with multiple long, unskippable cutscenes at the beginning of the game. Remember kids, vandalism stays on your permanent record. Another improvement comes from collecting most shines now, as you won't get kicked out of the stage and can continue to collect more shines within the level. For shines that drastically alter the level design or take place in secret courses, instead of getting booted back to the hub world, it will just kick you back to the episode select screen, so you can get right back into the action. While being able to see other levels on the island in the distance was a neat visual touch, Eclipse takes it a step further by adding direct paths to other levels on the island within all of the levels now, so the interconnectivity of the island now has a gameplay purpose as well, in turn making the island feel a lot more cohesive. Some of these paths also contain little sub-areas within them, helping flesh out the island a little bit more, and usually also hiding another shine sprite behind a puzzle. These quality of life improvements to the main gameplay loop by getting rid of the unnecessary waiting is made much more important as the total number of shines in this game has doubled from 120 shines to 240 shines, with this mod more than doubling the content of the original game. As alluded to before, this mod implements a lot of the content that was cut from the original game, including these cut levels. Lighthouse Island, a small, disconnected island from the rest of Isle Delfino, with its signature lighthouse at the center of the island, containing quite some interesting secrets inside. Airtoe Rock, taking place high within the mountains of Delfino, where water is scarce and navigation requires scaling great heights. The locals here have many favors to ask of Mario. Warship Island, a bay filled with warships and a few mountains close by. Mario must complete tasks for the crew and scale the mountains to collect the shines in this location. Hotel La Crema, a luxury resort on the other side of the island that is home to the criminal underworld of the Delfino Mafia. And everyone's favorite arcade classic, Booty Scootin'.
Guys, I think this might be Game of the Year.
While all of these stages still adhere to the tropical island theme, each new area is more visually distinct compared to the original levels, providing more visual variety to Isle Delfino. Outside of just adding levels, the cut train station mechanic from Sunshine's early development also makes its appearance in this mod as well, as a way to navigate between some of the areas on the island. Unlike a lot of other fan mods, Eclipse plays less like a Sunshine 2 and more like a Sunshine expansion pack, with the game playing very similarly to the original for the first beginning half of the game, but with a little bit more freedom with how you tackle each island, since you can walk the stages you might not have unlocked yet. These improvements Eclipse adds to Sunshine really does change the flow of the game compared to more traditional 3D Mario games, like 64 or Galaxy, whose missions are more siloed off into their own little sections outside of the main hub world, whereas the interconnected approach taken by Eclipse leans more towards an open world type of Mario game, or at least more in line with Mario Odyssey. This approach is a welcome change from Sunshine's more linear and restrictive progression system. A good chunk of Eclipse's new content is actually locked behind the post-game, so here's a quick spoiler warning before we get into it. After defeating Shadow Mario in all of the levels, and defeating Bowser, you unlock both the Daisy Cruiser from Double Dash as a hub world, and Luigi as a playable character.
Yahoo!
Luigi plays similar to Mario, but with higher jumps and lower gravity, which can make some of the harder platforming challenges a little bit easier to tackle. Though a good chunk of his sound effects still use Mario's voice lines for some reason. Also, upon beating Il Piantissimo in all of his races, you unlock him as a playable character as well. He runs quite a bit faster and jumps a little bit higher than Mario, while sporting a double jump as well, but also lacks the ability to use Flood, which makes throwing water balloons his only way of using water. This lack of Flood does make Il Piantissimo quite an interesting pick to play, as this limitation adds some nice gameplay variety rather than just being a Mario model swap with different stats. His toolkit makes him a beast in some missions that really takes advantage of his improved mobility, while other missions can be made frustratingly difficult if it requires a lot of precise use of Flood. And then there's Daisy Cruiser. This boat serves as the post-game hub for most of the new content that comes with this mod. Once you collect enough shine sprites, you'll be able to enter some of the following levels. An arcade cabinet in the style of the Vaporwave aesthetic. A level high in the clouds representing Mario's dreams. A land covered in ice and snow. A small little town located high up in the mountains. That's the home of their prized bubble machine. 5-year-old me would have killed to have a machine like that. Along with other levels as well. These levels mostly break away from the island aesthetic in favor of more custom level designs, while also ramping up the challenge just a little bit, providing a nice shakeup to the original Sunshine. Though at the end of the day, this still is a fan mod, so there's gonna be a few rough corners. During my playthrough, I had a few times where the audio would bug out, causing the music to just cut out into silence. While also not getting kicked out of the level is a nice addition, I did find myself selecting the new Reset Area option quite often after collecting a shine because either the next shine I was aiming to get was inaccessible with the current stage layout, or I just wanted to get my bearings as to what the next mission was, which, to be fair, was going to be an inevitable hurdle implementing the system within Sunshine's episodic structure. One final issue I ran into when playing Eclipse is due to a trade-off. To perform a long jump in Eclipse, it is done by pressing Z and A while moving. While this is a great movement tool, it comes with a sacrifice. In the original Sunshine, if you press the Z button, it would open a map of the island. This map also included a place where you can track all the shines you have collected for each level. This map was removed in Eclipse, and replaced with a count of how many stars and blue coins you've collected in the current level on the pause menu instead. This is actually a pretty nice change for the blue coins, as there wasn't a great way to track how many you got in a level before, which made 100% completing Sunshine a chore. Made worse with you only getting a postcard as a reward. But there is no way to see these totals unless inside the level, which makes trying to get 100% in this game with double the amount of stars its own chore, as to see if you've collected everything in a level, you gotta run all the way to the level, enter it, load up a mission, and then pause the game just to see you've 100% completed the stage. And you better hope you don't forget it, or better yet, just write it down, because you might be doing this multiple times, just to see you've already 100%ed the stage on your 4th audit. Speaking of 100% completion, and spoiler warning to those who don't want to get spoiled, when you collect all 240 shines, Bowser makes one final attempt to lay siege to Delfino in the game's true final boss. Taking place in a fire-ridden Delfino Plaza, Bowser rides his clown car, sending missiles, bombs, and gastrointestinal issues at Mario in a last-ditch effort to salvage his plans. Once defeating him, that's actually not the end of the new content, as Peach's castle opens up as a hub world, home to some scrapped and unfinished levels that the modders decided to let the player play in as at 100% reward. This is one of the great things that comes from fan projects like Eclipse. The devs often let the players have access to content that might be unfinished or in a beta-like state. While these projects usually have more rough edges compared to their official counterparts, these rougher edges are smoothed out by the amount of agency the player has to customize how the game can be played, whereas official releases are a lot more adverse to giving the player these options, as they prefer a more curated experience, rather than the more open and admittedly more fun experimental nature of these fan projects. Even if some of these new features don't land for some players, these changes can usually be toggled off, letting the player play their preferred version of the game, rather than Nintendo's vision of how the game ought to be played. Mario Sunshine, as a game overall, does bring some new ideas to the table and overall executes them well. Mario's improved controls, FLUDD, and just those summer vibes that the game radiates are some of the highlights of the game for me, but more than probably any other 3D Mario game. It's pretty clear that the game was rushed, especially when knowing what the game was originally supposed to be. With the linear progression system, the reduction of playable stages and locale variety, along with some of the obtuse missions to pad out the shine count, being the primary tells that this game was pushed up against a tight development schedule. But with the fan mod Mario Eclipse, the fans were able to implement many of the ideas that were originally scrapped, giving a glimpse into an alternate world where Sunshine didn't have to contend with such development pressures. Include some changes to alleviate a few pain points from the base Sunshine, and a wealth of new original content for the game, rounding out a well fleshed out fan project that I think not only serves as a good content expansion for the original game, but overall is the definitive way to play Super Mario Sunshine. So for those who have played Sunshine and maybe didn't love the game, or those who have never played Sunshine before, consider giving Eclipse a shot if you're in the mood to celebrate a Super Mario summer.